All right. Welcome to another video. We are gonna talk about the Earth-Wind hybrid, and you're probably wondering, why do we talk about the Earth-Wind hybrid? This is not new, and no, it is definitely not new. I think I did my first guide about this maybe 2 years ago, or something. At this point, it was a long time ago, that's for sure, and it's been a top tier build for years now. But as with anything, Infinity Kingdom has developed quite a lot in that time, and I was going over, well, I had gotten a lot of comments from players saying this is outdated, or does this still work? And I do have some comments and some changes and some updates, etc. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over the Earthwind hybrid in a modern 2024 version. We're going to look at it as a free-to-play, as a spender, and as a whale, quite frankly. So, why is this build so interesting? Well, it is because it excels at pretty much everything. Yeah, everything. Well, everything besides fighting Athenas and, the big whales and people who... We have some methods of hard countering it now, which I will come back to later, but almost everything. This is always a good build, and it's not something that you're gonna regret building up, because it works incredibly well against most anything, and as you grow and develop, it can turn into a secondary or a third march very easily, because it uses a lot of the skills that you are not going to want elsewhere. So it's a brilliant build, and in any stage of end game development, it has been an absolute top tier build. So that's why we're still talking about the Earth-Wind hybrid. As I said, we're gonna do some free-to-play stuff as well, because it's become a very easily obtainable free-to-play build, something that anyone can actually run and works very well. You can't kill whales with it as a free-to-play anymore. You could do that a couple years ago, but you will still perform extremely well, and it is perhaps the best free-to-play build, at least one of them. So just before we dive into the core build, what's changed, how does the Immortals and Skills setup look like, etc., and how to counter it, we're just going to talk about spending wisely. Because while the hybrid build itself can be a free-to-play build, it works extremely well for light spenders and mid spenders. People who are not spending to build chaos level whale shit, but who are spending quite a bit, getting the right Triss skills unlocked, getting good artifacts, that kind of thing. This is an ideal build for you, if that is you. Something else that's ideal is the Huawei spend and earn campaign, because you always want to spend wisely. When you buy an artifact, when you build up, a new Triss skill, when you get that juicy no escape, you want to get as much value out of every single dollar you spend as you possibly can. You do that with the Huawei AppGallery's spend and earn campaign. What you do is you spend $1, spend 10, spend 100, you get flowers, you stack up these flowers and redeem them for coupons, and then you get 20% back on your purchases. Well, up to 20% back on your purchases. It's massive discounts, and it is the best value that you are gonna get playing Infinity Kingdom. What you want to do is head on over to the AppGallery app, download the AppGallery app, install it, set up Infinity Kingdom with it, use the campaign, and get more value. Big discounts. Also, join the Discord server. There are mods in there who will help you out. There's some forums, some video sharing, all this kind of thing. If you're having any problems with the campaign, just hit up some of the mods in there. They will help you setting that up. The spend and earn campaign with Huawei, it is the best value as you build into maybe a mid-spender hybrid setup. All right, so looking at the core build, this guide is going to focus on Earth when hybrid, and it may to people it used to look really surreal, running half one, half the other. But we all know at this point that it works incredibly well, and it does because we are utilizing the high physical damage of Alex and Hannibal, paired with insane attack speed from Wind Dragon. From Emperor Quinn, the Wind Immortal, from Zenobia's unique artifact, from maybe having rapid artifacts on Hannibal and Alex. All this kind of thing just works tremendously well for this particular setup because we are dealing an insane amount of damage right out of the gates. We stack attack speed and we stack damage up front, so blessings and graces, that kind of thing, is very, very good because we are using Hannibal and Alex with unique artifacts. That means they deal the max amount of DPS from the first second. There is no ramp up at all, and that is really where the power comes from. Well, that and the fact that these are just both beasts at dealing damage. I mean, any Earth setup, you cannot run it without an Alex because he is just one of the best damage dealers in the game. So we're really leveraging that and just maxing out on the front-loaded physical damage. On top of that, of course, we're stacking wounds, we're using wounds from Emperor Quinn. Used to be the best debuff in the game. Maybe it still is. Maybe Confusion is at this point. Regardless, it's still very powerful if you are not faced with an enemy Athena. And let's be real, if you are, you're pretty much in trouble anyway. But against anything else, having wounds available is just massive. More of that, attack speed, cleave, it's great. It's really, really great. Zenobia, very good healing, more attack speed. Very, very good. Anyway, as you can hear, it's all about attack speed, and you do want, just a small note for the unique artifacts, try and get physical damage on top, up top, percentages preferably, and get the rapid bonus on those artifacts. There are some weaknesses to this build. It's a very powerful build, deals a lot of damage, but there are weaknesses. Weakening Curse and No Escape. No Escape perhaps a bit surprising because we're not really expecting to use our... we have two Immortals who have passive abilities now. But No Escape is still massive just because the silence to your back row means that your healing and your attack speed and your cleave doesn't get activated. You were losing a lot of very important buffs on Alex and Hannibal, which is quite big. So No Escape does counter this as it counters, everything. This is perhaps the best skill in the game. Not really ready to say it definitely is, but it is most certainly in the running for most powerful skill. However, Weakening Curse is actually a bigger counter to the hybrid. It is the counter to hybrid. I personally think that it's broken. I don't think it was intended to be this much of a hard counter to Alex and Hannibal Barca with unique artifacts, but it does work. So what it basically does is it reduces the damage that they deal by 70% until an Immortal casts his ultimate ability. But with unique artifacts on Hannibal and Alex, you cannot cast a skill because it's a passive, so you'll just be screwed. It's broken, but it works. It's most certainly not what was intended, and if it was intended, it's just a broken game. But this is how it works, and I don't think it's going to be fixed anytime soon. So this is just a major hard counter to the hybrid setup. As for... the point of this is just pointing out that if you are against someone with Weakening Curse and you're losing and you don't get why, this is why. And there's not really anything you can do about it. Weakening Curse is just a hard counter, as there are hard counters to any setup in Infinity Kingdom. For dragons, Used to be people wanted to run the Wind Dragon just because it has superior stats, but with the Dragon Talents of patch 2.4, which is quite a while ago at this point, the Wind Dragon's talent only applies to Wind Mortals. That is shit, and as such, you need to run the Earth Dragon. What kind of talent do you want? Well, there's a bit of debate about that, and it does actually, well, if you get really down and nitty gritty on it, it does actually depend on what kind of enemy you are fighting, which one is definitely better. Because in some situations you do want attack speed, in some you do want the prolonged stun, in some you do want the reduced incoming damage. You know, there are different scenarios where each one is actually better. But what I prefer is doing the collapse talents, just because reducing make it, ensuring that you get the damage protection buff, and buffing its duration is just really, really good and solid for anything you will fight. You will retain troops in the beginning of the fight very, very effectively using this talent, and most of the time that's going to be the best option. Aftershock can also be incredibly powerful, especially actually for the extended stun duration. But overall, collapse is probably, I mean, all three talents have at some point been the absolute best, and I see all three talents working out, but collapse in most situations would be the preferred choice. It depends on your enemy, it depends on whether you lean towards defense or offense, as we're going to go into later, but that is a general thing. For the strategy and execution on this, it's all set up around Alex and Hannibal, right? So we're stacking attack speed, we're stacking speed through Xeno's unique artifact, we're stacking attack speed with Berserk, with Quinn, with all these kind of things. Moreover, we are getting the unique artifact for Alexander, making him permanently immune to control effects, and we also want to run Fighting Master on Hannibal, which makes both our frontliners immune to control. Just unstoppable forces that just deal a lot of damage very, very quickly because we have so much attack speed. This is basically what we need, and we need the unique artifacts for it. And that's what I just want to stress here. Luckily, the unique artifacts for this has come to be extremely easy to get. Alex and Hannibal are available in the Mysterium, so you can farm that very quickly. You get 5 fragments every other day. Moreover, it's in seasonal events all the time. It's in 5-day bundles, these kind of things, and it's in the Stellar event as well. So there's a lot of avenues to get it, and even as a free-to-play, it's very easy to get. Xenobius can be a bit more difficult. For me in late conquest, I'm not getting it in any of the events anymore, so now I am relying on well, hopefully another stellar rotation will work out, but other than that, we need seasonal events for that. For Quinn, you can do the new spider bosses. Anyway, the point is you need the unique artifacts, and they're very easy to get for this build. Moving into the Immortal setups, because this is probably what you really want to hear about, right? What kind of skills do we need? I wish I could just give you this is the best thing. I'm not going to do that because that would be overly simplified. Instead, we're going to talk about what's best for each of the Immortals in different stages of development. Alex, for instance, he is our frontline damage dealer. He is, well, most of the time he's going to be top damage dealer, but with Hannibal, he and Hannibal are going to be doing all of the damage. Alex is the superior single target damage dealer, which is why we want to run something like combo, and dual master, berserk, physical shield, these kinds of things, which makes him a very powerful, dealing a lot of damage to his target. His target also taking a lot of cleave damage from Hannibal Barca. That just kills one frontliner very, very quickly. So as a default baseline, you can run something like Berserker, Dual Master, and Combo. Works very, very well. If you are up against something with, let's say you need more cleave damage because the frontliners are not very important, you need to put pressure on the enemy backliners. Well, you can swap out either combo or dual master based on what you need for Heavenly Thunder, for instance, putting more pressure on the backline. You can also swap into a physical shield if you need that. Maybe even swap out Berserker, so you're running physical shield, dual master, and combo. You could do that fighting enemy hybrids, because all of a sudden your Alex is going to have the upper hand, being both immune to the wounds effect, taking a lot less damage, but still dealing a decent amount of damage with dual master and combo. That can be a very powerful way to win against an enemy hybrid. So there's a lot of different ways that you can run your Alex, but it all has to do with sort of a limited amount of skills. Think about what you're up against and then make the call. Enemy frontline, front-loaded, physical damage, go physical shield, dual master combo. Against something, some random setup, maybe some fires or some lightnings, something you maybe you're not want to swap very often. Or combo Berserker Dual Master, that's always going to be good. Maybe you want to swap because you want to put pressure on the enemy Himiko. You need to get her down, something like that. Combo, Berserker Dual Master Heavenly Thunder could be very good. Think about the enemy and craft it based on that. Same thing applies for Hannibal Barca. Hannibal is, well, where Alex excels at the single target damage, winning the 101. Hannibal Barca excels at his cleave damage. He deals a lot of cleave damage natively, but you also always want to run cleave on him because they do stack, and that means you have two sources of cleave being caused to the enemy frontliner in front of Alex. So the enemy in front of Alexander is going to take damage from Hannibal and from your Alex and die very, very fast. Works very well. What you also want to do is run either more damage or more defense. This is again based on what are you up against. Like, do you need a lot more damage? Well, you can run Anger, maybe even Heavenly Thunder if you're not using it there. Stuff like that. You could also use, Toxin Barrier or Physical Shield or something like that if you're taking a lot of incoming damage. Most likely, if you're taking front-loaded damage, you want Physical Shield on your Alex, but the principle applies. Fighting Master against Earth Dragons, big cavalry, batteries, that kind of thing. Get that. Its damage mitigations and its immunity to control effects. Very, very powerful. So as a baseline, I would run something like Cleave, Fighting Master, and then either Toxin Barrier or Anger, depending on what you need for your other marches. But that would be my default lineup, and then you swap around depending on what you're up against. If you're not getting value out of your Toxin Barrier, swap into Anger, because Anger is a very powerful skill. If you're not against anything that can stun you, swap out Fighting Master, put in Anger and Toxin Barrier, in addition to Cleave, of course. If you're not using Berserker on your Alex, use Berserker here, stuff like that. It sounds more complicated than it is. Just think about your enemy. For Zenobia, we don't have as much swapping around. We have the default set of skills that are the best, and then we have the spender set of skills that are better. So for the baseline, the default, very, very powerful. The unique thing about the Earthwind hybrid is really that even comparing a cheap or free-to-play setup without Triss skills to one with Triss skills, difference is not that big. It's a lot smaller than it is in a holy without any good skills, for instance, or something like that. But it can be improved. Anyway, the default lineup or skills that you want to run is Wine and Dine, because we are getting a lot of healing out to our front liners, so we want to buff that damage. We run Blessing and Defense, and we run Berserk. You always want Berserk. It's a must-have for this setup. It's healing and it's more importantly a lot of attack speed. If you have access to Triss skills, swap out War. You probably don't want to swap out Wine and Dine, but you can if you need to. If you need to run both Purification and Energy Shield here, but I really wouldn't. I would probably rather move Energy Shield to Quinn. But anyway, if you have one of these, if you only have Purification or only have Energy Shield, swap out your Blessing and toss it in there. If you have Purification, you should note that Wine and Dine does activate based on Purification. So that is a very powerful combo. Toss Energy Shield to Emperor Quinn. If you have only Energy Shield, use it instead of the Blessing. For Emperor Quinn, we also have two sets of skills, Baseline and Spender Triss Whale stuff. So Baseline, you want Blessing of Speed, more attack speed, Blessing of War, more damage, Oaken Guard, less physical damage taken. It's very basic. You want to deal as much damage and take as little damage as you possibly can in those crucial first 20-25 seconds of the fight, because that is where hybrid wins. You will either win or lose in that time period. It should be noted here that if you are behind on dragon talents, if you are a low level earth dragon, maybe not very far into the talents, then you need to run coercion most likely. Check out your battle reports. If you ever miss anything, toss in coercion. If the enemy is dodging your attacks, you need to check that out. If you do, toss in coercion, remove blessing of speed. For the whales, for anyone, well, the spenders at least, there are a number of very, very good skills to run on Emperor Quinn. First up, of course, the perhaps best skill in Infinity Kingdom, No Escape. Incredibly powerful skill that you want to use if you have it. If you got it, use it. Spring Alive, very, very good. Energy Shield, very, very good. If you have all three, run all three. They are very, very good. If you have one of them, two of them, swap out first Blessing of Speed, then swap out Blessing of War. If you really don't need the defense from Oaken Guard, you can keep Blessing of War, but most of the time you probably want troop retention against setups that are very ramp up, like holy setups without any offensive builds, stuff like that. You can go War over Oaken Guard, but you should also note that that kind of thing can be countered as well. Anyway, if you have, No Escape, Spring Alive, Energy Shield, use them here on Quinn. It is very, very powerful. That brings us to two setups, two default setups. These are the things that I'm using right now. As I said, I'm swapping out quite a lot based on, enemy, but these are what I usually have, and then I swap out from there depending on what I need and swap back afterwards. In one of my formations, I run a main spender hybrid, and in another, I use many of these skills in my holy, and thus a secondary Earth March with which works incredibly well. And I'm going to be moving into that as a permanent secondary march as I finish up Loki. But it works as both, and these are the two tiers of builds based on your level of spending. That's all. That is the new modern hybrid. I hope that answers the questions that you guys have been asking. I hope it makes sense sort of how to progress your hybrid from the old builds and into this new stage where we have all these new Triss skills available. That was the intention, so I hope that came across. If it didn't, hit me up and we'll chat about it instead. I am Myrax, server 105. You can find me there. You can find me on Discord. You can find me on the IKWiki website. Thank you very much for watching, and see you on the next one. As always, please do subscribe to the channel. I consistently release new content here on the IK channel and on the official IK Wiki website. Links are in the description. On these channels you can find guides from everything in IK, from events to talents, passives, finished builds and game mechanics. With that, I'm gonna leave you, and as always, thank you for watching and see you for the next one.